Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. So, it's amazing how technology has really changed everything that we do in our daily lives, and real estate is no different. What's been interesting for me is over the last couple of years, there are four major technologies: mobility, social media, which I'm also going to refer to as digital, the cloud, and big data. And what's been interesting over the past year is the four of these technologies, and I'll call them impact technologies, have come together very nicely. And what they've done is they've changed the way we work, they changed the way we are communicating with our tenants, the way we are marketing and leasing, and the way actually the tenant experience and even development. And having an accounting background, I'm going to start with some numbers, and so I'm kind of the worst kind. I'm an accounting geek and a technology geek. But let's look at some of these statistics on digital. This is America alone. 320 million people, of which there are 329 million devices. And I would tell you, guaranteed by a show of hands, everybody would raise their hand because they probably at least have two of those devices that count in that number. What's even more staggering is on a global level, there are 7 billion people and 3.6 billion unique devices. So that means over half the world's population has a mobile device. And then when you think about that, and you look at some of the time people spend on their devices, nearly 5 hours on the internet, 3 hours on social media, 3 hours on their mobile device. It's a staggering opportunity to reach people like we've never had before. So from our perspective at Silverstein Properties, we have taken this information and we're actually building a digital strategy around that. And one of the things that I've seen over the years as I've talked to some of my peers is people have not really thought about it. It's I want to be on Facebook just to be on Facebook versus what's the real value. So one of the things that we find that you have to do is define your strategy, define your objectives, and what are the measures of success. And that's the most important. And for us, it's lead generation, it's actually sales, it's conversion. Silverstein Properties is a well-known brand, and we have found that our brand helps us lease. So we go through, and when we look at our digital platforms, it's the objectives that we're trying to accomplish. And some of the other ones that I've listed here, by way of example, for residential particularly, you want to build a sense of community. You want people to feel like they want to live there, like they want to be there, a cool place to live. For World Trade Center, we've built a different sense of community. It's a cool building with a lot of events, fashion shows, TV shows, commercials, movies. So again, another opportunity, even just raising awareness. So once you define your objectives, then the next thing you want to do is kind of understand your audience and know who they are. And that's where one of the other major impact technologies, big data, comes into play. And what a lot of people don't realize, again, back in the days, we all had our accounting systems, the MRIs and the Yardies, and those were primarily for general ledgers, asset management reports, rent rolls, things like that nature. But what people forgot to realize is there's a wealth of data in there. From a residential side, when somebody walks in the door, and we give people in our residential properties an iPad, they fill out a guest card so we know, male, female, married, where they used to live, high school graduate, college graduate, occupation. There's a wealth of information. Think about your security systems when people walk in and they swipe their card. You know a lot about them. There is a ton of information in our core building systems that nobody's really starting to look at. And as we have started to do at Silverstein Properties, we're looking at those because what that allows us to do is create a very targeted message. And with that targeted message, we can then decide what platform do we want to be on. And back in the day, it just used to be you had a web page, an internet site, and that was it. Now it's social media, it's digital signage, it's e-blast, it's mobile apps, which are really becoming very prevalent, very much so in hospitality and residential. Commercial is a laggard in that, but they will actually catch up. E-blast, and what you can do now with the back-end data that you're getting in e-blast, just by way of example, when somebody walks in, they fill out the guest card on the residential side, that actually feeds our back-end system. Automatically overnight, we have a customized e-blast that will say, thank you for visiting the property. We know what apartments we've shown them, so we're keeping track of that. And then they will get the floor plans, some pictures of the amenities. So we've now created a customized communication, leveraging technology. And if you think about it, it's no more where we're getting a piece of paper that somebody at reception is typing in, they're filling it in, it all happens behind the scenes. So with that, focusing more on digital and social, one of the things you need to do is decide what your platform is. And the 6 major platforms, which I think we're all aware of: Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, and Instagram. And depending on who your audience is and your demographics, you're going to select different ones. And here's an interesting stat. Back in the day, I think we all remember, watching TV, the Nielsen's ratings would come out every week, and the advertisers would flock to the top-rated shows. Well, it's no different in digital. And if you look at this chart, which talks about demographics by platform and age, by way of example, if I wanted to reach a younger millennial crowd, and my daughter's in the audience and she's a millennial, I know that when she wakes up, the first thing she's going to do is pick up her phone, look at Instagram, look at Facebook. Now, she'll also sleep later than most of us will, but if I wanted to reach all of us, and we're on LinkedIn, I'm going to sit there and think about, by way of example, what time of day and what kind of device do I want to reach you on. So for us, 7:30, 8:30, 9 o'clock, if I want to get a LinkedIn post that somebody's going to read, I'm going to do it that early, because once 9 o'clock gets here, everybody's working. And I also know there's no such thing as 9 to 5 anymore. We all work longer hours. So if I was going to post at night, it would be later. So it's not only about where they are, but it's who they are, so you can figure out when to reach them and how to reach them. And you can also see, we talk about mobility, and again, mobility is going to be the most transformational tool and technology of our society. If you look at these top two charts, smartphones are being used to watch videos, even by the older graphics of 50 and above. Over 51% of people are using those to actually watch videos. So with this information, what this does for us is we now define a digital strategy. And here's an example of 4 World Trade Center and how, when we talk about convergence of impact technologies, we also talk about the convergence of digital. And if you look at our website, first of all, we have a desktop version, a mobile version, because by way of example, if you don't have a mobile-friendly website, Google will drop you in your ratings. And once you fall off the first page of Google's rankings, you are seen by probably less than 10% of the people searching for that term. So it's important to have a mobile-friendly site. So with that, you can see what we're trying to sell at 4 World Trade Center is obviously leasing. Easy access to the overview, to the floor plans, to the stacking diagrams. But what you'll also notice is we've got all of our social media icons right up front. So we're cross-collateralizing each of our different platforms so people can actually see and get to each. So it becomes unified, so you can get any message you want on all of our different channels. And then talk about Silver Suites, a little bit different. It's our executive office space. And what we try and sell is the amenity, the high level of services. It's turnkey, it's Wi-Fi, it's voice over IP. So we have a slightly different approach where you can see people and engaging. And some of the visual images that we use are very important because it's a very visual society that we live in. And with social media engagement, images and videos are what attracts and engages with people. So something very important to think about. What also a lot of people don't do, and it's something that we've done quite a bit of, is monitoring your results. So we talk about big data again, and remember all these apps are in the cloud. So now you've got the 4 actual impact technologies converging. From companies like Facebook, you can get a wealth of information. Who's reading it, demographics, and actually, if you think about even Google, you can actually see the flow of your website. And one of the things that's been very interesting, I had a conversation with our head of residential leasing the other day, and we were just talking about some of the competition. Somebody who's a born and bred New Yorker, there are more cranes in the skyline right now than I can ever remember in my 55 years and 30 years in real estate. And what we're now starting to see is, because we can track the flow of how people are going through our website, we are actually signing leases through social media, through the unification and the convergence of our digital platform. So if you think about residential New York, let's just say the average apartment is $4,000 a month. If I just sign 2 leases, that's $100,000 in revenue for what costs pennies or dollars for digital campaigns per click and per user. So if you think about that, it's a very important statistic. It's a very important way to communicate. We're even seeing it at Silver Suites, where our website traffic and social media traffic are aligning, driving deals, which are critical, because at the end of the day, we can manage expenses only to a certain degree, because you still need employees, you still have insurance, you still have taxes, you still have basic operations. So at the end of the day, to have a successful ROI and have better performing assets, it's all about the revenue. So using social media and using your internet presence to market and to communicate with tenants is essential, because let's also not forget, from a communication perspective, retention and renewals are the key to the lifeline of a building. It's a lot less expensive to renew than not. So then let's talk about, we've just talked about the cycle of marketing. Let's talk about actually the tenant experience now and how that's changing with technology. Back in the day, you'd put a computer on a desk, it had a power cord, it had an Ethernet cord, and people worked. And then we started with a little bit of Wi-Fi, And then we had the whole BYOD, and a lot of IT people were kind of afraid because of viruses and who knew what, and I think we've all gotten over that. Now the space is so different. And a lot of the trends that we're seeing, and some of them were mentioned before in the other session, it's a very flexible space. You have ubiquitous Wi-Fi throughout, so you can take your laptop, move from desk to desk or office to office, stay connected. And a lot of that is changing through technology, and what a lot of us have heard is the Internet of Things. Now, the Internet of Things really just comes down to every single device, whether it be a light, whether it be a microphone, whether it be a computer, are all connected to a central network, so they can all communicate together. If you look at some of these numbers, over $17 billion are going to be spent on Internet of Things by 2019 for smart buildings. And essentially, what that's going to allow us to do, because the systems talk together, more insight into our assets, more insight into performance so we can actually understand where it's working, where it's not working, help reduce costs, be a little bit more sustainable. It'll also give us insight into patterns and trends. And from a development side, one of the things that means is we're starting to see a reduction in our electrical implementation, so less conduit, less electrical work, which also in New York City, because we are a union shop, has some union implications. And UWA 32, Local 3 are starting to be comfortable with this, but they realize that low voltage wiring is a significant change, but they're adapting to it. So again, it's something that you need to start to think about as you build out buildings. And by way of example, talking about the development side, the way we build a building is so different now than it used to be, and technology is integral. In fact, technology is part of the building before the foundation is even poured now. And some of the things that you'll notice, and this is essentially a heat map, which gives us some indication of Wi-Fi signal and strength on the floor, of what it will be like when we build it out. And when you do that, you have to think about construction. You know, down at the World Trade Center, because of security, we have these very solid structural cores well above and beyond any New York City code, which means we need more access points. It changes the way we build the building. When we built 7 World Trade Center back in 2006, we had cores to run conduit for DAS, for Wi-Fi. Nobody expected the explosion. We've actually had to go back and drill central cores throughout the entire building. Time consuming because it's after hours, and you've got union people doing this. It's disruptive because there's a lot of noise, obviously, if you ever have heard drilling through concrete. So now when you build a building, you have to think about bigger cores, you have to think about network closets with environmentals of air conditioning, ventilation. It changes the way we look at how we even develop the buildings now. And again, people want that experience of Wi-Fi throughout. I want to be able to walk into the elevator, go down to a couple of floors to another floor of ours, not lose connection, be connected to my network, have my Wi-Fi work, have my phone work, be able to make a call, all very key to the way we build the building. And then once the building's built, the fact that it's all connected, and you know, kind of a diaschematic of the risers and how we connect things, there's a wealth of access that we can do. From building systems, we've got LED lighting, we've got security systems, HVAC. And I was in Asia in 2006, and they were light years ahead of us. The engineers that we hire today to run our buildings are going to be so different in a couple of years. They're going to be technologically savvy. They're going to sit in a command center with a video wall of screens to understand exactly what's going on. And with very simple commands, they're going to be able to dim the lights in the entire building by 10%. They're going to be able to change the, you know, if it's a cooler day all of a sudden, they will be able to change the air conditioning levels in an entire side of the building, the entire building, with simply a flip of a switch and a command at a keyboard and a mouse. So it's going to drive energy efficiency, sustainability, it's going to drive the user experience. And then from the other side of being connected from the user experience, it's about wireless, it's about IP, flexible so you can move. And one of the things we've done by way of example at Silver Suites is we have a space at 7 World Trade, and we're getting ready to open at 4 World Trade soon. Because we're using technology and the network as our backbone, a tenant will be able to move from an office at 7 World Trade, walk over to 4, be on the same network, have their phone work exactly the same, complete transparency to the user, so that they can be as flexible as they want. If I think about, you know, when we operate real estate, every couple of years we sit there and we have to do the engineering and the electrical inspections, so we have to shut down power in a floor. Well, I now have the ability, because of my networking, the way the buildings are connected, to turn around and move people seamlessly from building to building. Another way these are connected at 7
Employees simply also take advantage and to their offices in the most efficient way possible. Time will be...
All right, sorry for the audio. But so dispatch elevators are not new. People have seen them. But now that they're connected, here's the difference. From a security perspective, we now know who you are when you swipe your badge when you walk into the building. All right, so I know something about you. Then I'm telling you what elevator to go to, because when you go in these elevators, there are no keypads. So I know where you are, and with the digital signage that we have in the building, I can actually tell the message. I can actually, the example below, we have Moody's in one of our buildings. If I know you work for Moody's, I can tell you about the contest, I can tell you about an event, I can tell you about training. And as this gets further down the road and you have, a DAS system, so you have ubiquitous Wi-Fi, and you sign into an app, and I know where you're going through the building, I can actually tell that even more. And if you think about retail, and retail has excelled at this, you get a retail app, you walk through the mall, they know your traffic patterns. They know when you're near in front of a store that if you like, they will send you coupons, discounts. It's not there yet on the commercial side, but it will get there, because the more we know about our tenants, the better we can operate the building. We can understand when they walk in, elevator management, heat management, changes the way that we work. Another thing that we can also do is digital signage, and this is in the lobby of Fort World Trade. We can set the mood of the building very easily. We can change to the right. We had an AOL event recently, very easily tell the message to them. When you think about LED lightings, I love this city. I love the fact that I get to look at the Empire State Building on a regular basis. The light shows that we see every night are all LED lightings done by technology. Simple, Philips, we all have heard of them. LED lighting. It's amazing what you can do to change the look and feel of your building and the design using technology. Now, with the Internet of Things, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about security. And I know we started to talk about it. Somebody raised it just before at the end. If you look to the left, this is just within the last week, some major cyber attacks throughout the world. You've got Samsung phones, which a lot of you probably have. We've got Canada just got hacked yesterday. It's for real estate, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If somebody wants to hack you, they will be able to hack you. And the takeaway from all of this is, first of all, it's all about security. We've had building systems that want to talk in some of our older buildings. They have XP machines, no passwords, usernames that are the default, admin. You've got to do a security audit on all of your systems before you connect them to your network, because you're exposing them. At the end of the day, when you start to get cyber coverage now, they're going to want to understand these kind of policies, because they're not going to take the risk in insuring you. And furthermore, if you think about brand and reputation, as we sit here and try and lease our buildings, could you imagine trying to lease a building and all of a sudden your building gets hacked and somebody shuts the lights off, somebody locks your elevators, okay? Think about, from a brand and reputation, what that's going to do and how it's going to impact your ability to lease going forward. So it's very, I can't impress upon enough the security that we need to deal with when we talk about the Internet of Things and all of our connected building systems, because if you get hacked, it can go across multiple systems. And while we have not really had a lot of this in real estate, there have been some instances where facilities, there's one well-known where a police station, somebody hacked into their BMS system, turned down the air conditioning so it got very warm, just to make a point. So it's out there, it will happen, you have to take this seriously. So with that, let's talk about some of the trends that we're actually seeing. Commercial, again, has been a laggard. We are actually seeing personal devices driving business technology. We all see it. We all want mobile apps. We want mobility so that we can do what we want when we want. By way of example, I was tweaking the presentation. I have Office 365 on my iPhone. I was able to call up the presentation, make a couple of changes to it, feed it back up to the cloud, bring it down here, all seamlessly. I don't need to be tied to my desktop, and that's the experience our tenants want. We're going to start seeing apps. You see them, the Four Seasons does it for their hospitality, SPG does it. We're doing it in residential now. We're going to start to see it in commercial. It becomes the central place where we can communicate with our tenants about events in the building, about security, about work orders, all of it. So you're going to see apps, and they're all going to be mobile driven. We're going to see expanded and diversified products. We talked about WeWork. WeWork changes the way we look at real estate now. It's a flexible space. We're no longer just selling core space and simplistic space. We need to provide the different level of amenities, hospitality service, so that people feel comfortable the same way they do at home. And really what's going to distinguish everybody is the ability to adapt, create, and innovate as technology changes the way we look at things. And by way of example, talk about technology and how it's changing. This is a rendering from 2 World Trade Center. We just recently had to redo the design. And what we're working on with Fox and 21st Century Fox is it's got to have Wi-Fi throughout. You'll see we've got very flexible space so that people can shift and hold smaller meetings, which means they can connect wherever they are throughout. This space becomes more collaborative, so it's more effective. It's also a lot more energy efficient. And then the other side of that is, which also we were talking, somebody mentioned before, is this sense of community. We're bringing the outside in, the public spaces. So you'll see the series of public spaces going straight through. And again, people want to be able to work in this. So we're talking about quality of life, we're talking about sustainability, we're talking about amenities. Again, changing the way we work, changing the workplace. It's, you know, the notion of the 3 different size offices doesn't work anymore. It's got to be flexible. It's got to be able to adapt to the way a company will change over time. And then lastly, just to summarize, you know, as you know, particularly at Silverstein Properties, as we've watched the skyline of Lower Manhattan transform over the last 10 years, technology is going to continue to reshape our industry in ways we've never ever seen it before. Thank you.